34 months ago, 36 months ago, they said Trump was crazy. He was a racist. How dare he ever criticize the first African-American president? Well, that's ridiculous. If the guy is the first African-American president, if he's worthy and capable, then he should be treated by the same standards as you and me and President Trump and everybody else, right? Why should we trudge him with a handicap? That makes no sense, right? So, he's a big boy. Let's go ahead and judge Obama just like we would Trump, just like we would Bush, etc., and Carter and all these guys. And you know what? It so ends up President Trump was right. He found out that Obama's administration was spying on his campaign, which is absolutely over the top. Let's reverse the roles. And we're talking about privilege, right? Well, privilege, you got privilege. Privilege is a hoax. You guys know it. I know it. It's an absolute hoax. So, what do they say? Oh, President Trump has privilege. Or these people. Nobody has privilege. Okay, let's put it this way. We all have privileges, but with privilege comes responsibility. If you demonstrate responsibility, you get more privileges. It's as simple as that. That's how life works in America. It's how it's always worked. So, let's go ahead and change gears a little bit here. I will say one more time, though. If you reverse the roles, if President Trump had been caught spying on the Obama campaign, would you not think that President Trump would be behind bars? Come on, right? He would be behind bars. They would be out for blood, okay? You would see Schumer and all these guys and all these different shysters, these different crooked fools, right? Pencil neck, right? Whatever his name is, Adam Shifty Schiff, these guys would be going for blood after President Trump. And President Trump's people would be doing time behind bars. But you know what? It was reversed. Obama's administration was spying on the Trump campaign. And likewise, if Obama wants to be treated equal, he should have to have the same consequences as President Trump or any other president. So yes, Obama should be held accountable. They should have a special counsel investigating Obama. Obama should be called to testify. He should be called to testify under oath. What did you know about spying on President Trump's campaign, Mr. Obama? You want to tell us, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama? Would you tell us the truth, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama? When you have money, you have privilege. That's a great point, Frida Marta. So let me tell you something. When you have money, you do have privilege. That's true. And a lot of money is earned and a lot of it's passed on down from relatives. These are facts. These are true things. But we are not God. I'm going to depart a little bit from this a little bit. We are not God. We should not be in charge of taking someone's money and giving it to somebody else. That's not our role. If we were the almighty God, perhaps it would be. But these people all have this Luciferian complex. They want to be like Hitler too, right? They want to be like the devil, like Satan, and they want to gain all of this power and control and overthrow the earth so they can do it their way. That's what it is. So I call it a Luciferian complex. Okay, Lucifer, the story of Lucifer, you guys probably know. Hopefully you know. Basically in heaven, Lucifer led a revolt of angels, okay? And these angels became later demons. And they led a revolt because he wanted them to worship him instead of God. And the story goes from the scripture that 1/3 of the angels were thrown out of heaven, okay, because God won and kicked their butts down to earth. And that's one reason why we have all of this mess going on. You've got the spiritual sin component going on. And of course, you have the sin nature of man, etc. And you add those together. You've got thoughts being put in the minds of these leaders. They're doing crazy things. Oh, maybe we can make a better world. Well, it's good to try and make a better world, but not a world where we're abandoning traditional marriage, not a world where we're abandoning the traditional family, not a world where we're basically turning things over that we should be stewards of, let's say our country. We shouldn't be turning these things over. Every country should be allowed to exist within the confines of its territory and should not be subjected to international norms and international rules. This is a bunch of garbage. Can we make the live video shareable? You know what? I don't know how to do that. But what you can do, Frida Marta, is you can actually copy somebody or let's say tag them. So you can just go @ and then type in the name of the person. And this will be available available to rewatch tomorrow. And so hopefully we'll have others who check it out. Usually that's what happens. I haven't been on. What's up, Matthew? Thanks for joining us. I haven't been on in a few weeks. Like I said earlier, I've been trying to rebuild my business after COVID and after the leftist psycho communists in California shut us down for extended periods of time. And now we're going to have to fight to win our customers back. And you know what? God willing, we will. We are working our butts off and we're getting some traction and we're going to do the best we can. But let me tell you something. That's what happens when you live in a state that has been blessed so much, but you have leaders who deny where that blessing came from. And that is what you have. You got these woke leftists, and I call him again Mr. Gerbil Farmer Newsom himself, strange man that he is, and there's a story behind that because, he is a rather strange guy. I won't go into that right now, but he is an oddball. And so he thinks he can basically give out the handouts, and he doesn't want to give credit where these blessings came from. Okay, so let me go on here. We're looking at Revolver News. And let's see here. Another headline says, Justice Alito finally upholds Pennsylvania election law against undated ballots in temporary ruling. Well, thanks, Mr. Alito. I wish you would have done it in a timely manner, because if you'd done it sooner, perhaps the real winner of the election could have been inaugurated. But unfortunately, we've got a puppet who didn't have to go out and campaign. He didn't have to reveal that he didn't know what day it was often and where he was when he would get up in the morning. He didn't have to reveal any of that stuff, of course, because he got to hide in the basement and sit behind a mask and just mumble and mumble and mumble away. So, yes, this is pretty cooked. I mean, the American people got ripped off. Come on, guys. This wasn't a real election. It's like having like a race, right? Let's have a 100-meter dash, and all of a sudden they're going to change, the race, and they're going to say, look, you guys got to run in the dark. You can't see what you're doing. All of a sudden somebody gets to run in track spikes, but somebody else has to run, in boots. I mean, that's kind of how it was, right? This was ridiculous, right? Somebody can take off before the gun starts. So that's pretty much how the leftists would, if you were to say that the election, how would it be analogous to a track and field race? Well, pretty much, yeah. I mean, you could take off. Oh, or the race is over. Somebody finished the race. Oh, let's pause it. Let's give extra time to have a couple of the guys who are behind and catch up, right? They're going to catch up, and looks like the guy who won the race really didn't win. It was a guy who was like about 300 yards behind because we paused the race because it really wasn't fair, so we let him catch up. That's pretty much it. It is a joke. It is absurd. Sleepy Joe is pathetic. Even the polls are showing it. Sleepy Joe is absolutely pathetic. The man, as Trump said, lost his fastball. I don't know if he ever had a fastball. He actually was a decent speaker. I'll give him credit. He reminded me a little bit of Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom is not a great orator in the sense that he has, a bunch of appeal all the way around the board, but he can get up there and spin some words, things like that. What's up? Thanks, Niche Bob. Thanks for joining us. But basically, Sleepy Joe, yeah, he used to talk fairly well, but he always, when I say always, every so often, regularly, he was caught lying. And so he actually ran for president in the 80s, and he thought he was so great and so smart, and he starts talking about his IQ and all of his different degrees. Well, it so ends up that he made it up. He is the pretender in chief, according to Ruth Ann Phillips. You're right, Ruth Ann. He is the pretender. He's an absolute pretender. The difference between Joe Biden now and then is then he could get away with it because he could talk his way out of it more. He can't do that now. So not only is he a huge pretender in chief and liar, he is incompetent in his ability to explain himself and to lie. So yes, he lies. I mean, he lies every day, right? He lies every day. But he can't do it convincingly anymore. That's the difference. Niche Bob calls him an idiot. I think that's pretty suitable. Joe Biden, a.k.a. idiot. Let's go Brandon, right? Mr. Joe Biden. The guy is a joke. Let's go ahead and go on. The headlines here in Revolver News. We've got dishonest trans women in sports debate. Oh boy, that looks like a very controversial subject, but, it's crazy. So trans women in sports, right? Trans women in sports. What are you talking about? How is this a woman? Come on, give me a break. I don't want to get thrown off of here, but give me a break. trans women. So this is a guy who now says he's a woman who's competing against girls, and we're supposed to believe this is a fair race? Kind of like the election of 2020, isn't it? Kind of like that. You're talking about liars, right? What do they say? What is the big thing you hear from the leftists, and especially in the left coast here? Those who went to Stanford and Cal Berkeley, they say, ooh, follow the science. Ooh, you must follow the science. Did you say follow the science? That's only, of course, if you have somebody who wants to, let's say, participate in women's sports, but they're not really a woman. You don't have to follow the science then, right? So let's see. What about giving out sovereignty to who? What now? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, sovereignty. Yeah, Freedom Marta, explain that a little more. That's interesting. I know that there's, when you say sovereignty, we're talking about what? Freedom of expression. And so that's what they try and do. They want to give out sovereignty to whoever they want to give it out to, but they don't want to allow us to have our sovereignty. You have people from January 6th, right? This insurrection, they call it. But basically, there are some people who acted out and acted incorrectly and broke the law. But think of the treatment of these American people. Many of them have not even been charged yet. They haven't been charged yet. They don't even know what they're in there for, other than that they were at a Trump rally. Okay. Some of them, yes. Some of them have been, but most of them not. Now let's compare that to the BLM, Black Lives Matter, right? It's really what it's not about, but they say that's what it is. Black Lives Matter, okay? You've got Antifa. These people who killed people, okay? They destroyed cities, multi-millions of dollars of damage in our country, well beyond about 100 times more damage than whatever was done on January 6th. And these people are sitting pretty. And the law is just ignoring them because those in charge of the law are crooked. And so it's amazing. Amazing. I'm not sure. What does the scripture say? It says, when the wicked rule, the people mourn. That's the situation we're in, guys. We've got wicked people ruling, and it makes us mourn. Yes, we're mourning. We're mourning the loss of freedom. We're mourning the loss of truth. We're mourning the loss of patriotism and good stewardship over our country. We're mourning the loss of traditional relationships being promoted in our society, in culture, right? In entertainment. Why do we have an entire month that's dedicated to LGBTQZ, XYZ, whatever? Why do we have an entire month? And we've got for veterans, one day, Veterans Day. Little weird. Something's backwards there, right? Would you say? Okay, so let's see. JMC has a comment. For real science shows men can't get pregnant. Exactly. Mr. Ninchmob said, let's put it straight here. According to science, men cannot get pregnant. Well, that means they're not a woman. Okay? The only way you can say they're a woman is you have to redefine the word woman. And if you do that, you're changing the English language and you're not following science. Okay, let's see. Ruth Ann says, World Health Organization meeting in Geneva was to hand our sovereignty turned over to the World Health Organization and NATO. You know what? That is so interesting. I agree with you 100%. You have this conglomerate of forces working with the WEF and Klaus Schwab and the World Health Organization. Absolutely. NATO is working right there with them. And, it's so interesting to see that. Let me go ahead and it's alarming at the same time. But they are exposing themselves for what they are. They are ambitious fools with a Luciferian complex. It's as simple as that. They want to rule the world. This could be like a really scary James Bond theme, right? Or set to a movie or what have you. But that's basically what's happening in real life. They want to rule the damn world. These people are crazy. Imagine the ego that they might have. I don't care. Okay, you say there's no more Nazism in Germany or whatever. Okay, well, it just redefined itself. They still have the same ego going on in the leadership. Klaus Schwab, come on, a German guy. Now, I'm not saying all Germans are Nazis, okay? I'm not saying it at all. But what I'm saying is this. Klaus Schwab, basically, he's got this major ego complex. He wants to control the entire world. Why in the world are we going to trust a guy who's such a maniac? We can't do that. It is against proper thinking, right? It is against good reason. But the problem is common sense isn't always common practice. And that's the problem we're running into now. Let's take a look and see here. We've got the New World Order. Ruth Ann mentioned the word New World Order. You're right. And she has a comment earlier. Frida Marta. Let's see here. They want to give the WHO power, that is the World Health Organization power, over our Constitution, which means the World Health Organization's Constitution would take over. Let me see if I can open this comment. Take over if there's another pandemic and UN troops could take over America. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. And I do agree with you, Frida Marta. You know, I remember in the 90s, and I was playing football in college and so on, and I'd be out there training. I was a very, very dedicated workout person and so on. I was out training on the field, pulling sleds and all sorts of things on the field. And at the time, my training partner was just a little miniature radio. And I would listen to Rush Limbaugh, I'd listen to Michael Savage, I'd listen to these guys, Sean Medved, I think it was his name, or Michael Medved. And so I would listen to these guys, and that was kind of my training partners at the time. And then every so often you get someone who is more conspiratorial, and he would talk about, the one world government's coming, all this stuff. And I was like, come on, guys, you're going too far. You're over the top. But you know what? It's right now. It is ripe. The conditions are ripe. It is very clear they have not only the will to do it, they have the technological ability to do it that they didn't have in the 90s, and they also have the finances through multi-billionaires like Klaus Schwab, and they'll just tax the nations who will then fund this crazy redevelopment, redefining of humanity, and basically the WF, right? The World Economic Forum. And so what are they going to call this thing? And so I guess they have to do a couple things first. So let me scroll down and see if there's any more comments. Totally agree. We all feed up. Well, that's Mr. Lynch Mob. I like the name. That's cool, buddy. We're all fed up with these libtard clowns. Me too, buddy. We are fed up with them. Thanks for joining us, Deborah. Let's see. Thanks for joining us, Tanya. And so basically, yes, I was right, and my friends didn't care, and they still don't. It's unfortunate. It is really unfortunate. I've got friends, they go, oh, I gotta go, who's on first? What's on second? Who's shooting the hoops? Come on, I don't want to pay attention to that stuff. That's too negative. I don't want to upset my friends. It's like, interesting. You're talking about throwing away everything that gave you the freedom to be an American. Throwing that out the window. You're talking about not only you, but your children's future, your grandchildren's future, if you're blessed enough to have them, okay? And you're basically ensuring that they are going to have a very psychologically disturbed future. Simple as that. And you probably can add the word spiritually disturbed future. And so, let's see, Niche Mob had another comment. Ruth Ann had a comment. She says, there are real Nazis in Ukraine. Yes, there are. You are right. And we have learned more about that recently. It's actually amazing when you think about it. Not neo-Nazis, so they're not new Nazis, right? Neo is new, right? Thanks for joining us, Claudia. Let me read the comment from Ruth Ann. She says, but real grandchildren of the original Nazis. Wow. So interesting. Let me see if I can open this comment. They're part of their army. You are right. I've seen what I feel is credible sources that seem to verify what you just said. There are neo-Nazis in the Ukrainian army, and somehow the New World Order, Joe Biden, and all these people who are supposedly against the boogeyman white supremacists, which basically has been overblown by Joe Biden. It's a bunch of BS, most of it. And so basically, we're supposed to ignore the fact that Ukraine has has Nazis in their military, and we're supposed to give them billions and billions of dollars that is supposed to have gone to you guys and us to rebuild our businesses after they forced lockdowns. Sounds a little bit like corruption to me. The problem is what happened in Ukraine. I really think this. There's a lot of things going on with Ukraine, but one of the problems is when Vladimir Putin decided to go into Ukraine and to just blow up their push of NATO eastward and what have you, he basically scared Joe Biden and he got rid of the Democrats' playground. It's as simple as that. This was a playground for Sleepy Joe, for Hunter. Come on. How much money did Hunter make in Ukraine? That's what we need to know first. If we know how much money Hunter made in Ukraine, then we know why Joe Biden is so anxious to go into Ukraine and pushing us to the brink of World War III, which is rather psycho in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Of course, I'm sure you guys probably feel the same way. But the leftist, of course, says, Ukraine, 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 Ukraine. I've got my Ukrainian flag here. And I'm not against Ukrainians. I love Ukrainians. I love Vladimir Klitschko, Vitaly Klitschko. I love those boxers. And I love the people, the innocent people. My heart pours out for them. But you know what? I don't want to go to nuclear war for Ukraine. I don't want to. I don't think you guys do either. Who wants to? Who wants to destroy America for a small country called Ukraine? Only a person who is very foolish with very nearsighted vision, because it is not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. Should we give them humanitarian aid? Yeah, of course. Military aid? Maybe. But if it's going to push Russia to expand the conflict, no. Now, if Russia decides to go into other countries, yeah, I think you got to step it up a little bit. But it doesn't look like that's Russia's ambition in this case. Russia is not the reincarnation of Nazi Germany. And of course, the left is trying to say that. Well, meanwhile, you have, as Ruth Ann Phillips said earlier, you have real Nazis who are in the Ukrainian army. So things aren't adding up, guys. They are not being honest.